she comes from a very musical place. And I'm not talking about my family here, I'm talking about her sensibility with the instrument.
We've just been talking about this. We're in a pandemic. What's been keeping you going?
Well, I've been busy. I've been busy during the pandemic. I teach full time at Humber College, so that keeps me busy. That's really where most of my energy has gone over the last year. Before things actually locked down, I think I had in front of me what was looking like my busiest and best year artistically in front of me, with lots of projects and various tours booked and recording sessions and things like that. And just where I teach at Humber College, most stuff has moved online. So all the things that I'm involved in teaching, private lessons, and basically courses, improvisation courses, and saxophone masterclass, we've managed to transfer all that online, where it's still a very good learning experience. And so just dealing with the changes of trying to get that information out to students and exchanging with students has pretty much taken up most, if not all, of my life over the last year. I'm at home a lot, so I try to do some practicing every day, and I've been able to get to that pretty consistently. I'm just trying to wait it out like everyone else, and sort of watching what's happening, and just trying to stay positive. In my role as a teacher, I think there's also this added, I wouldn't say pressure, but maybe responsibility to try and make that kind of attitude available to my students as well, because they're younger. They haven't seen anything like this, but none of us have seen anything like this in our lifetime, really. So just trying to instill a positive vibe and be there, for them, and try to help them through it, and stay positive. So while a lot of things have slowed down, it's actually been, my life has been very full over the last year.
Great. Do you think, because of this involuntary solitude, do you think you've come up with any new ideas or a way of thinking about music and art?
Uh, I don't think so. I was thinking at some point it might be nice to take advantage of the lockdown to do more composing, which I haven't been able to do. For me, the teaching thing has really taken up a lot of time and energy, and so I've kind of shifted my focus to trying to get back to the saxophone and practicing that every day, and I feel good about that. I'm trying to move into new areas, but it's difficult without interacting with other people. It's difficult to see how those things will manifest themselves over time. But so I'm continuing to try and push myself into areas that I now have more time to explore. Much of that would usually happen on the bandstand, when you're touring or performing. And so there's a lot of growth that happens that way. With the pandemic and that lack of interaction, I find that it's a good time to kind of get back into the mindset of self-motivated learning. I've always been pretty good at that anyway. Throughout my life, I've been relatively disciplined in terms of trying to take care of my own development. outside of what's happening or what's coming my way or what's sort of, what's out there for someone. That's part of it. The interaction with other musicians, the opportunity to work with other musicians is very important, but there's also another aspect of one's artistic growth that has to do with taking care of business yourself and taking your lessons from those kind of interactions and continuing to try and push yourself in a direction where you're able to continue to grow artistically. So it's been more that than anything, and just waiting for things to maybe open up. A lot of people say return to normal. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't think any of us do. But just kind of, patiently waiting, but also trying to move forward in ways that I have some control over artistically as a musician.
I wonder if you ever thought about kind of imagery, or is there an overall story that you're after musically?
Musically, I find my inspiration from a lot of different places. I'm not sure I'm so much conscious of it when I'm playing. Occasionally when I'm writing, I may have different sources of inspiration. Sometimes I'll actually try and write things that basically, have the most uninspiring beginnings, like as a way of growing my craft. And then other things are very specific. I think I get a lot of inspiration outside of music, just visual things, traveling, people, just thoughts that one might have, certain inspirations you might get from, listening to somebody talk on a particular subject. There are musical inspirations as well, but it's kind of all over the map. And the other thing, it's interesting, as an instrumentalist, for instance, we have the advantage and disadvantage of, if you're playing instrumental music, of having or not having lyrics. Sometimes if you have lyrics, you're kind of stuck to the meaning of the song. And so sometimes, as an instrumentalist, you want to have the flexibility of being able to interpret things differently night to night. We have a tune on the program today that we're going to play called Silent Voices. So initially that was inspired by the passing of the great pianist John Taylor, and so, and I recorded a quartet without piano with Pat LaBarbera, Adam Nussbaum, and Kieran. And so, but that voice is still very much alive for anyone that knows his music or who's been inspired by that. But it's not only about John, but because there are other people, that are no longer in our lives, but who still, inhabit our spirit, and so I like the flexibility of being able to portray different feelings sometimes, and not be locked into the initial sort of germ, that maybe the composition came out of. And if I'm playing particular tunes, if there is a lyric, I like to know the lyric. That certainly creates a feeling for the song or an understanding for the song. But also, as a saxophonist, I also like to be free to basically take the general meaning or sentiment of the song, but be free to interpret it without having to do that. So. It's interesting. It's like music is always about feeling. When you're playing, I don't know that you necessarily analyze what it is you're trying to put out there, but you're very much connected to that every time you play. Even when I'm practicing at home, I'm feeling my way through the music. If I'm writing a composition, sometimes it can get very emotional. But emotions are very complex, so one's not absolutely certain what it is, you're trying to put out there. It's like, I have this song and I'm hoping that people will feel this way. Well, certain people may feel a different way, and I like that flexibility, but it's very much about feeling, but maybe not that specifically.
How's it playing with Virginia?
So yeah, this group, the Generations Quartet, is with my daughter Virginia, who anybody that's heard her knows what an absolutely great musician she is. I knew that long before anyone because I would hear her playing at home, and she's always sounded wonderful, but she's really come into her own over the past few years. The thing about Virginia that's really great is she comes from a very musical place. And I'm not talking about my family here. I'm talking about her sensibility with the instrument. And even, I've watched her grow from the very beginning, but even as a teenager, she always played with a very old soul. She had a real maturity in her playing. And as she grew as a person and got out there and was a little bit more active playing, that just continued to grow exponentially. And she's comfortable on the bandstand with musicians, twice her age, and she brings that kind of maturity and musicality to her playing. And she's very interactive. She doesn't really come in with an agenda the way many young musicians do. She's very open. She interacts on a very high level, and she's an absolutely wonderful clarinet player, like a total virtuoso. But it doesn't come from virtuosity. Her concept, it comes from musicality, and I have to laugh because I could easily win an award for the world's worst clarinet player. So when I hear my daughter playing the instrument so well, and anybody that has tried to play the clarinet or does play the clarinet, they're really blown away because she has an absolutely amazing sound. She's got a really strong concept, and she's just a great musician. She comes on the bandstand as an equal to anyone that's there. And she digs in. She's unfazed by high level playing. She gets right in there, and she has a kind of a quiet confidence, and she's great. She's very inspiring to play with.